Pivots are a way of powerfully summarizing data provided in a query. Easiest way to launch a pivot is clicking the pivot button at the bottom of the screen with the data already showing. Once the pivot shows up on screen, you can begin to work with it. So first of all, I'll describe the different areas of the pivot screen. Up at the top, the row of fields here is in the filter area, and these allow us to actually do additional filtering over and above what's already been filtered. Keep in mind that data presented in the query before you launch the pivot, if it's pre-filtered, only the filtered data shows up inside the pivot itself, so you are potentially filtering on top of a filter. Down here is the line quantity field is in what's known as the data area. This is the area where the field you display is summarized in the main part of the pivot. Store name and department show up in the row area, and there's also a column area where we can drop fields there additionally as well. And if you want to hide all the fields in the filter area, if you basically click this button, hide unused fields, everything from the filter area will go into the field list. If we want to access a field list, you have to be in the filter area. If you right click, you can select show field list. This field list can be resized, and it's alphabetically arranged. If we come down, what I'm looking for is line extended price. There it is. I can drag and drop that to the data area. And we now have a summary on line extended price. On top of that, let's show you how to use the column area. If we take the created date and drop that down into the column area, we're actually getting summaries for each individual day and time. Now that's not particularly useful, but it becomes much more useful if we right click on the created date and go to group interval and select date month. So now it says January, February, March, April, May, June. If we add the year below that, you'll see that for March we've got 2012 versus 2013. So it's a way of actually getting comparison queries. Just like the queries themselves, you can actually save a layout by clicking on the Save button at the bottom of the screen and giving it a name. For example, test pivot. And you can change to any of the other layouts that have previously been created. We'll leave it with test pivot for now. Now you notice our grand total has actually disappeared across the right hand side. Right there. I'd like to bring that to the left to make it a bit more obvious because of the number of columns that are actually on screen. The bigger your screen, the more data you'll fit in it. So we're actually going to go to show options. We're going to take the column total and we're going to select near. So it's disappeared from the right hand side, and yes, there it is on the left hand side. Now you see there are some other options you can use here. We can hide the expand buttons if we're always expanded, and we are. And that tends to make it a bit more like a regular query. Like so. Some of those options, a later tutorial will teach you how to use them. One of the more common things that people want to do is a ranking report. And rankings are done on grand totals. They're not done on the additional summaries within this, only on the grand totals. So you'll notice at the moment we are sorted by department alphabetically. If we go to show sorting, we can actually sort the department field by the line extended price, and we can show, say, the top 10 of those. If we decide to show the remainder as others, that only shows where there are more than 10 departments showing up. You see now that we're actually ranked by the grand total on that. So that gives you a way of getting a ranking report. We'll turn both of those options off. Again, we could resave that. If we resave that at this particular point in time, what it'll do is remind us that there's something that already exists with that name. I'm going to say yes, we will overwrite it. Okay, now just a point to note, if you're actually exporting from here to, say, Excel, it's possible to export to Excel and it'll show you what you see on screen, exactly what you see on screen. If you want to be able to work with the data further, use the Show Details option. The Show Details option brings your summarized data down into a grid-like format, and when you export to Excel, you're able to put in formulas, etc., to be able to work with it. All you've actually got to do is choose export while that's on screen, and it will choose the data export as opposed to the view export.